And then our third panelist and speaker, who is increasingly needing little introduction, Sir Tim Berners-Lee. Panelists, would you like to join us here?
Morning. All right. So this session is about government data. I'm going to talk about linked open data and government data, and a little bit of history about what happened in the UK. Now it's very exciting that there's government data happening all over the place. What I'm to start off with is what is the argument that you're going to be making to people in government about why this is a good idea. So the most important one, from my point of view, is that all this data, which is locked up inside the government, sitting on computers, has value. People realize that documents which have value, but they have more value when they're put on the web. It's just a logical step that data has more value. In fact, data is different from documents because data gets value from being joined and compared and analyzed with more data. So when you put it on the web, it really adds value to your own data and to all the data out there. And that's the most important thing for me. So, of course, when it's government data, then the fact that it's out there means that the citizens have got some visibility into government, and you end up getting feedback to the government services, which improves them. And I've put third, but some people put top, the fact that this visibility leads to accountability and transparency of government. Now, that is a whole separate movement. And the movement for transparent government and accountable governments is an important one. And it's connected to, and it's part of, if you like, a wider open government data. But it's not the only reason for putting data online. And in fact, I hope when we look back in several years, people will realize the actual economic value. But the economic value is very difficult to measure. That's the problem. If you think, what is the return on investment of the World Wide Web? You know, it's obviously really important. We use it all the time, but you can't say how much it's worth to you every day. And the same, unfortunately, is true with data. I'll just show you a few things which have one of the team over in the Transparency Board members in WCC, in UK, sent me this listed collect people who are using. These are applications that people have put on the web based on the data. So the magic thing about putting government data out there is that when you're working in government, you only have to put some data out there, and then people produce mashups without it costing you anything, without you having to go through a government procurement cycle and draw up a requirements document and put it out to tender, and a maybe 12-month process to get something where, in fact, people hack up this sort of thing very quickly. So this is Matthew Somerville's mashup of, this is not the road map, the train map, this is the live train map. This is where the trains actually are on the London Underground. So you can see on his iPhone version that when the next train will be arriving at each station. In general, there's a lot of value to these things. This is an interesting one. This was experimental. It's not in production, but this was a newspaper which was generated entirely from data about hyper-local things. It's a hyper-local newspaper. It's generated for a particular postcode, a particular accurate postcode, and it's got in it things about the neighborhood, about the crime rates, for example, about the local schools, where the local schools are, based on very precise point. So that newspaper can be produced very quickly for one particular place. So there are whole lot of a famous one in various countries has been the potholes, the tracking the extent to which you don't. I guess you don't have so much ice in Spain, so you don't have any potholes. In the Northeast America, you have a lot of potholes, and when the spring comes around, there are holes appear because of the ice, and then you want the town and fill them up. This is a Fix My Street. Is a UK crowdsourced site which connects with the government to make sure the government fixes these things. Crime data has been a big one in the US and the UK, making it visible where crimes are with, to some, a particularly interesting move. Some people complained that it would change the value of their houses depending on whether they were in a crime area. And other people said, well, yeah, that's right. Actually, a safer place will be more valuable. And so now, in the UK, this is, in the US also, there's been crime data released, and the US, and it's changed the way that the police thinks about what to do quite dramatically in some cases. In this case, the service being, this is the schools. This is a site which points at the schools. The fact that the school performance data is getting put on makes people accountable. The danger is, you might say, that it makes schools only try to work to the metric, but that means you have to improve the metric and not just make it more interesting than just being tests. But the whole idea that you can look across the country when you're moving and have a look at which places have good reputations for education, obviously is very valuable to everybody. So it's just a public service. Same thing with hospitals. UK has a National Health Service. This makes it so it's very reasonable to make it accountable. This case, waste services, I think probably even in the remotest parts of Spain, you probably heard about the UK scandal about when government data about the expenses by the Member of Parliament was put online. That was that didn't require that was a bit of a scandal because the data was released before it was supposed to. It was leaked. So that's a notorious example. But in general, this applies also. This is the transparency of government with data, with open data, is. Improves not only national but also local government is really important. So what I've been encouraging people to do is to go make their data as high quality as possible. Briefly, what I say is that when you're putting data on the web, I'll give you between 1 and 5 stars. I'll give you the first star if you put it on the web at all, because actually, politically, that's very difficult. So the first star is a very big star. You deserve it. If you have scanned in the table from a report and you photographed it and then you faxed it to someone and they've put the picture of that on the web, it's not very easy to use. You get 2 stars if it's machine readable. If you give me a spreadsheet file, then that's much more usable. But if you give me a proprietary spreadsheet, so I have to load a particular GIS software for geospatial data, then that's boring. Boring because I don't want to be forced to use particular proprietary formats. Boring because in the future the proprietary formats will tend to age. So please use a non-proprietary format. Use an open standard. It's very easy. I mean, XML, comma-separated values. If you use those, then I don't have to buy any software. It's going to be more persistent. So that's why. So I give you 3 stars. If you put it out there in the RDF format, or using RDF, the RDF standards, which include Sparkle, the Sparkle service for query, then those are the W3C standards for data. Those RDF for data is like HTML is for documents. So when you use those, they have a great extra advantage, and that is they use URLs to identify all the concepts, the things you're talking about. The fact that you're talking about Bilbao, you use a URL to identify the row of data which is about Bilbao. and then other people can link to that because it has a URL. They can link their data. This is a bit like hypertext linking, but it's different. It's linking data. It's making all the other spreadsheets out there automatically connect. All the rows which are about Bilbao automatically connect to the row of your data which is about Bilbao. And similarly, when you have a column which is population, if the population of a city that you're using, that concept is the same concept as somebody else is using, that's really valuable. If you put your data in RDF, somebody else can say, oh, my population data is the same as his population data. And then when you do a query, then automatically that query can run over all the data combined and pull in the population of Bilbao as well as the population of other countries which have been put out there using the same URL. So when you put it out there, it becomes linkable. So it's like putting stuff out there on the web as a document that allows you to link to it. It's more powerful with data. You can link to individual things, rows of a database. You can link to individual columns. And that linking brings a lot of extra benefit. So I give you a 5th star if you actually do some linking. So if you, in the Basque country, release some data about Bilbao, and then people in Madrid have release some data about Bilbao, well, you get, both of you, the 5th star when the two of you have talked and you have made some databases which connect to each other. And that can be sometimes a beautiful arrangement because you can let the people in Madrid or the people in Brussels worry about a few really important basic facts about Bilbao, but in your own database about Bilbao, you can have much more detailed information. So much more detailed information about the tourism, about the new industry, about the innovation, about the conferences. So you may put that in your databases, but you still want people who access that to be able to get hold of the data that the European Commission has. And you want your data in Bilbao to be connected to the European Commission's data because you want people searching for a good place to open a business within Bilbao, within Europe, to find Bilbao and find all the extra data that you have about why it's such a good idea. So this linked data mark, by the way, it's a good idea. Keep it with you to remind you. You can get it from cafepress.com/w3c_shop. And a certain amount of the proceeds go to a good cause to help the consortium make more standards and more things to put on marks. Why do you do that? Well, you do that because when you've got linked data, then you become part of this. Then you become part of this. Is the cloud of all the, this was in 2010, this is constantly growing. This is growing at about every 10 months. And in fact, the government data is the bluey, greeny stuff on the left-hand side. So the government data is just a part of this. There's all kinds of community data, data about music, data about shows, data about science, and the whole thing is growing dramatically. People doing all kinds of different things will end up doing queries, producing applications, solving problems in their day-to-day work, using this data, and they will come across the data that you've put about Bilbao from all kinds of different angles. And you can never tell how the data that you put up there is going to be used. You just put it up there and make sure that it's linked in. So this is the map of 5-star data. And it's good when you're part of it, then you're part of a really important movement. This is just a graph come up recently of the number of data sets on data.gov.uk, but obviously that's just one country. Other countries are putting huge amounts of data up. When you look at that, there is explosion in government data. Remember, that's just the blue-green area in open data. There are huge amounts of other data being put out there. So the linked data world is really taking off. And like the web in the early days, every time somebody added a new website, it added value to all the other websites. It gave everybody that excitement about what they can do. And it's not just enabling consumers, it's not just enabling government and e-government, it's also enabling industry. This is data which is very valuable for industry. the W3C has got things happening in eGov. In fact, there's a new working group which is just about being created. It was discussed over the last couple of days. There's linked data for eGov working group. There's an interest group. So do go to check out the w3.org site and find out everything that's happening in eGov. Do find people who are around, who are involved in it, who are around the building, and send us email and use the W3C as a way of meeting people who are doing the same thing in other countries, because they may have solved some of the problems which you're trying to solve. They may have already been through that. You may have solved problems that they've been trying to do it. If you bring all the people together who are trying to solve the same sort of problem, makes sense to me. So thanks very much, and do get the mug. So this is the linked open data logo. It's a sort of opening box, and these are stickers, and you can put them on your laptop. Okay. So the condition of having them is that you put them on your laptop. All right. So that other people can see them. If you have a light on your laptop, then you put it over the light so they glow. And you need some more over here. You already have one. Yeah. All right. No. Pass it back. Pass it back.
Thank you very much, Tim. And as you decorate your laptops, allow me to introduce Jeanne Holm. Jeanne?
My name is Jeanne Holm, and I'm the Chief Architect at NASA, the U.S. Space Agency, and I'm the evangelist for data.gov. And today I'd really like to take you on a journey, the same journey I think all of us are on. I mean, here in this room, we use the web in ways that not everybody does. Not only do we use it for enjoyment, for learning, for gathering knowledge, but we also use it as part of our livelihood. So as that, I wanted to make sure that we all sort of understood kind of where our roots are and where we are going together. So you might think that where we started was when Tim invented the web. But actually, I see it as earlier. The first place that we shared data was actually around a campfire. So when we first started as humans wanting to share information that would improve our lives, that would make us more efficient, more effective, it's really about the essence of communication. Now, we're somewhere in a journey, wherever you are, at your business, at your organization, as an individual, to try to implant, so we no longer have to have an interface, but we simply understand the knowledge. So somewhere in this, we all are, and we're all on the same journey. In the United States, we looked at the idea of open data and how we're sharing information in a different way recently. So when President Obama was elected, the very first thing he did, his first day in office, was to sign a memo that required all of the government agencies to share information, to be transparent in the way that they did their business, and to share data. The very first act was to transform the government in a fundamental way. I've been at NASA 26 years, and this was a complete change for many of the agencies in the government. So as part of that, the first federal CIO we've had in the United States, Vivek Kundra, decided that he wanted to create data.gov, which was a capability for sharing data. And the reason behind this was really to create data that would help to drive the economy in ways that we hadn't imagined before. But we'd actually seen this happen a couple of times, serendipitously. So the Air Force, the US Air Force, creates lots of information. And part of the data that they capture is through global positioning satellites that look at all of the movements of their assets, ships and planes and soldiers across the globe. They never really thought about sharing this information, but years ago, they decided that it might be interesting or help navigation safety. And so they opened up this data source called GPS that they really didn't think very many people would be interested in. But lo and behold, it sparked a whole new industry. And I can see all of the remote devices here in the room that use GPS today. So I know that all of us use this to get here, to be safe, to communicate with others, to do our work, to drive our own businesses. That same kind of innovation also occurred with the National Weather Service. So we track weather data as an organization, as a government, for all sorts of purposes. But normally we had kept that internal and really looked at it for disaster management and that sort of thing. But when we released that in measurable, usable, reusable, and understandable forms, suddenly all sorts of new industries got spawned. That same kind of serendipitous economy, that same kind of economic growth, is something we can't always predict. And so Tim with the data.gov UK, and for those of us in the US with data.gov, we're really trying to open up information in new ways so that all of you and all of the other folks across the planet can try to figure out what makes sense economically for them, what makes sense to improve the quality of life in their neighborhoods and their communities. So data.gov was the first effort at the US level to try to open up government data across all of the agencies. Now, we've always shared information. From NASA's inception in 1958, we've shared information broadly with the public. Okay, maybe not in the internet in those days, but as broadly as media would allow us. So it's not that we haven't done this in the government. I know the Spanish government does this as well, governments across the world. But what a loss for is how to make it so that people can easily find the information and the data in accessible formats. So data.gov was really created to try to make that capability. And we see ourselves as serving a lot of different audiences. Up here, the things you see in green are really just the government. That's what we used to serve. But the things in blue are citizens, industry, academia, young people, not just people in university, but also people in kindergarten through 12th grade. We have a whole education campaign trying to make data understandable to kids as young as 5 or 6. So that as they grow, they understand the use of that data and the ways to manipulate that data. So really where we're at is a paradigm shift. It's how you perceive things to be. So you can decide to just share data, just make it available, as Tim would say, in a one-star format. And you can just put it out there. Or you can try to drive innovation within your company, within your economy, within your neighborhood, within your community. So on data.gov, we've taken a different tactic. Not only do we want to make the data available to people and accessible, but we also want to make it understandable in context with the conversations people have every day. So we've taken that platform that we deployed back in 2009, and we've completely changed around the way in which we hold conversations. So you can see we started small. We had 47 data sets when we started. Actually, the country of Timor-Leste, East Timor, is very brave. They came up recently with their open data site with 1 data set. So you can start small. It's great. Then you're part of the neighborhood and the community and the open government data sites. So we started with just 47 data sets. We now have over 390,000 data sets on data.gov. We have 6.4 billion triples in our RDF triple store. We have noticed that there are 29 different states in America that now have open data sites. So all of this has happened not because the 5 of us who comprise data.gov have been working so hard, but because all of the people who own the data, who create the data, who steward the data, who curate the data, those are the people who have understood the impact their data has with the public, the impact their data could have for new businesses and innovation. And they have taken the time to take that data that used to be internal, share it with the public, put it into reusable formats, and to provide it in a way that is both visualized and linked to other data sets across the government. So we focus on a few different things. First of all, we want to make the data easy to find. So of course we have traditional search engines, but more interestingly than that, we actually use a variety of semantic technologies to look across the data sets. Those are semantic technologies that have been developed by citizens. So a lot of the development on data.gov comes because we create an infrastructure and a platform, and then others build on it or build on our data sets in a way that adds functionality that makes sense to them and helps others find information. We have categories, economy, we have tag clouds, so you can see what other people are looking for and what's popular. So there's different ways to find the information. But most importantly, the transformation we've had in just the last week is actually a new deployment on our infrastructure, which allows easy visualizations. So if you're a data geek, like some of us are, then it's great to download the data set, bring it into whatever tool that you want, and be able to create visualizations. But what if you're not a data geek? What if you're just a person who's trying to understand an issue related to health or something related to your community and the crime statistics? So if that's the case, you don't even know if that's the data set you want. You want to be able to visualize it on the spot. So with a single click now on data.gov, you can look at our data sets, see them on a map, see them as a chart. You don't have to bring them anywhere. You don't even have to download them. And you can do it to a portion of a data set as well, or a mashup of two data sets. So this is a change we've made in order to try to make it understandable for folks and usable. Just last week, I was talking at the International Science Fair. So for those of you who have children, you might have had your kids compete in science fairs where they make volcanoes and go to school and talk about different science research that they're interested in. So this was the 1,600 winners from 50 countries around the world who are the future of science in our globe. And what we realized was that they needed to have access to this information too, because a lot of what they're trying to do is understand information and data and analysis. So the visualization, the ability for them to easily use this kind of thing, it doesn't matter whether you're 80 or 8, data.gov and the kinds of open government data sites are really resources for anybody. And then we also use the promise of semantic technologies and actually create capabilities using RDF, OWL, Sparkle queries that take the data and make them accessible and usable in different kinds of ways. And combine it with data. Often people combine our government data with others, with data from industry, with proprietary data perhaps, that they're just looking for an internal analysis. All of that's great. Whatever people can put to use from the government is what we're hoping for. And so we work closely with Professor Jim Hendler and his team at RPI, and looking at how we're deploying semantic technologies, how people are using it, and how they're visualizing data. Perhaps the biggest change this last year really is this idea of conversations within a community. So people don't want to go and just download a data set and sort of work in isolation. We all want to talk to each other. And so we've developed these communities on data.gov. Our first two communities are health and law, so health.data.gov and law.data.gov. Human rights will be coming up in just the next week or two. They range from education to energy, climate, to consumer rights. So it's all over. We have 27 communities in the development organization trying to put together the data that makes sense to them and the conversations. So we have forums and wikis and blogs to the data. People can have a discussion about a specific data set, or they can ask for new data sets. The government has lots of data we collect. We don't even think some people are interested in it, but all over data.gov, there are places where you can request a data set, make a comment on a data set, or have a conversation about the kind of data or the issues that are around multiple sets of data or across communities. And these communities also hold challenges. So our health community right now has 10 challenges going that are open to the public, $80,000 in prize money available across those challenges, everything from childhood health issues to asthma to cancer research, looking at how government data can help to better inform people and asking people to create an app or a mashup or a visualization or a recommendation based on government data that helps others to be better informed. And part of that is really this idea of outreach. So every one of our organizations reaches out to our consumers, to our citizens, depending on who your stakeholders are. But we particularly feel compelled to kids and teachers to help them understand how to teach about data in the classroom. We have lesson plans. We have virtual internships on data.gov for young kids across America. And we also are integrated into a variety of science and engineering fairs and festivals across the United States and across the world. And all of this really leads into tapping the ingenuity of the public. So these are just examples of some of the applications and mashups that have been created using the data on data.gov from developers across the globe. Things like looking at where the best jobs are in America and where you can go that would give you the best likelihood of getting a new job. Things that look at health issues by neighborhood and zip code. Data Masher is an application that lets you put any two data sets together and see if they make sense. course, they don't always make sense, any two random data sets, but it's great to be able to let people easily do that. And these are for non-technical people. Literally, you just simply point to the two URIs and are able to actually get to that data. And part of what we've realized is, with this infrastructure, with this integration across all of our agencies, we started with just 7 agencies sharing data on data.gov, and we now have 172 agencies across the government, that's just the federal government, sharing data. And we've been able to respond quickly and flexibly to disasters. So we had a huge oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, and that we were able to put up data sets and information in real time. When the Japanese tragedy happened recently, we put up information that we were already tracking on tsunamis, radiation levels from sensors across the globe. And so we were able to share that in real time, especially with the data journalists, so that they could then have better informed and up-to-date articles. So as we think about the path ahead, we really are focused on trying to get all of that hidden data across the government up and out. So that's kind of our 1-star data. We have a lot of that, and we have a lot more potential data that can be coming out. And really then helping people on their 5 stars. So trying to make that data accessible, linked, reusable, understandable. And along that journey, our data lives in kind of some different spaces as different agencies have matured in different ways. We want to make sure it's easy for people to visualize the information, create these communities for people to have conversations and context around the data, and be able to really share and understand global issues as we work across governments and share the data that will help to change the world into the world we would like to live in. Now, I've noticed that there are many open data sites here, open government data sites in Spain. So as I was looking, I saw that your governments, especially here with the Basque government, has been making great efforts in trying to make that change and trying to bring government data up and out. So as we look forward, it's really a global movement that's begun. So just as Tim's invention kind of sparked so much of what we do today and take for granted, opening up government has the ability to help to spark innovation across the globe. And I would just encourage all of you to try to help to set the data free.
Thank you, Jeanne. And before we begin our roundtable, we'll hear from Idoia Mendia, who will talk about what's happening here in the Basque Country. Okay?
Eguerdion guztioi, ongi etorriak Bilbora, Euskadira, espero dut urrengo minututan azaltzea Eusko Jaurlaritzan ari garen ekimenak martxan ipintzen, gardentasuna lortzeko. Public administration have a fundamental role in modern democratic societies. They provide basic services for the whole society and they guarantee welfare state. When the welfare state set up after the Second World War is being questioned for the purpose of self-interest, the system that has brought greater prosperity to European societies than they have had throughout their entire history is clearly under attack. Discrediting this great collective agreement without replacing it with another which is equal or better is to deny one of its greater achievements, that of universal public services. These attacks on our past achievements are simply unacceptable. It's worrying that just when development is affording us the opportunity to build a responsible administration for these modern times, some pretend to question the achievements of the 20th century in Europe. And we are not blind. In this time of crisis, the administration must adapt and be more efficient so as to ensure that the levels of welfare achieved are not diminished. Ultimately, to lend even more legitimacy to the social and inclusive model we wish to defend. However, why do we need a 21st century administration? Or more to the point, on what should the design of this new administration be centered? In my opinion, people should be at the center, not only as receivers of public policies, but also as active, creative elements. We do not want citizens to be simply the end users. We want responsible and participative citizens. This is where public policies based on transparency, confidence, participation, communication, and the monitoring of government activity by the citizens become even more logical. In fact, one of the basic axes of the Basque government activity to promote the modernization of our country is knowledge. We want people to be trained, to be educated, so that they can participate in designing public policies. A more efficient and less wasteful public administration has more legitimacy for the citizens of the very welfare state, which we want to strengthen. The administration is not a private company, but we should rethink public policies so that services both drive and support society. The administration must adapt to the current social demands because if not, nothing will change. Public administration will lose its social legitimacy. Growing social dislike for public policies will be an ever greater challenge for us. And what role should the new technologies and the opportunities they create have at this stage? Nowadays, in a globalized world like ours, the possibilities for interaction are infinite. Just this week, Internet Day was celebrated around the world. The Internet has revolutionized the world. We can say without fear of mistake that it's the first utopia to occur in this century. In a very short time, it has modified our relationships. It has transformed our work, our ways of studying, our ways of doing politics, our way of governance, and providing services to our citizens. Recently, in an article, I was wondering what would happen if one day, suddenly, without warning, the Internet were switched off. I invite you to ask the same question. The net is here to stay, and it's going to completely change our entire society. It's doing so. We are surprised by the influence it has had in so few years and how it has been molding the habits for an important percentage of the developed world's population, above all, the youth. Also, in emerging countries or in autocratic states, the so-called Arab Spring would not have been possible without social networks or bloggers. Now, nobody can escape their power. Nowadays, it's becoming evident that even people who do not use this technology directly every day do benefit from it. And we consider that the transitions toward democracy in a large part of the Arab world will provide further evidence of this. Nobody escapes the influence of the net. In fact, social networks and their huge growth are nothing less than further evidence of just how the Internet is leaving its mark on society and on each small element of daily life. The European Union is open to the virtual world. In all the 27 European states, the average of homes with access to the net has increased from 41% in 2004 to 65% in 2009. The Basque Country is 5% lower, although it beats the average in Spain, which is around 54%. We are doing well, but I look enviously to countries like Holland, with its 90% rate. We want to work at those levels in the Basque Country. It becomes more and more difficult to find organizations that are not present on the Internet. Citizens no longer see the net as something alien, strange, and therefore society has got used to building relationships with this tool. If the fight against social exclusion has been the flagship of the left-wing organizations and governments, the commitment to digital expansion should also be the flagship of all those executives who view their fellow citizens, the people they serve, exactly as they are, politically active citizens, mature and socially committed. Overcoming the gap is the duty of everyone. As administrator, we have to remove each and every obstacle, just as we do in other areas, so that knowledge and access to this world is not just for a privileged few. Public administrations can find on the Internet and in the new information and communication technologies the perfect allies with which to make the dream of proximity, transparency, and participation come true. Furthermore, this legitimates the welfare state for which we are all fighting, an administration that makes things easier for the citizens. Never before has it been possible for an administration to be open to the public for 24 hours. Now it is, thanks to administration. Getting rid of bureaucracy of a stroke and saving citizens from having to hunt in form after form for a simple request has always seemed to be an impossible dream. No longer. Now it's easily possible thanks to interoperability and to e-administration. In addition, the internet has helped us to delve into the principles of the democratic system that were once mere words scattered about the four words of constitutions. Transparency, participation, and collaboration are now possible, and there are no more excuses. We have no longer excuses. Being transparent in our work, not only informing the citizens about what we do, but also giving society the tools with which to audit our work. Transparency may be provocative. It reveals both what we like and what we do not. But don't our citizens have the right to know about even the projects that fail? I know the failure is not well regarded in our society, but if you don't take risk, you won't achieve anything. And I firmly believe that courage is a very necessary value in the difficult times in which we live. In fact, all of above is about trying to strengthen citizen participation. We are not calling for the elimination of representative democracy, a democracy which permits the marrying of different individual interests, but isn't really a source of participation. Ballot boxes do not enhance commitment and participation on their own. Neither are we looking to eliminate participation formulas through organized society, just the opposite. We are talking about a different type of participation, one that requires constant listening on behalf of the politicians. Tune into the frequency that citizens are broadcasting on. Take the message on board, adjust it, and convert it into public policies. The image of our governors in their ivory tower, alienated from the demands and the needs of their citizens, is a useless black and white photo from the past. We must involve our communities, as well as providing them with effective and efficient government. To do this, nothing is better than transparency, converting our cities and towns into a meeting place for knowledge and talent. A global network based on transparency and innovation where competitive collaboration between citizens, cities, regions, states, companies, NGOs is productive so that we all live longer and better. I will try to explain this the Basque government is implementing with regard to administrative reform and open government. Our government has introduced pioneer projects in order to meet the objectives that I have mentioned and that are linked in a joint strategy, the Public Innovation Plan, on which we want to build an innovative and open administration that offers society quality, efficient, effective, and secure services in collaboration with the active participation of the citizenship. We want to involve people as the main protagonists of change, and all this based on new governance values, openness, and to results, transparency, and innovation. It seems difficult, yes, and ambitious, very ambitious, and it is, but in my opinion, even before implementation, it's already a success. And that is because it has been prepared with the participation of public employees, the representatives, the chambers of commerce, along with other administrations, and the citizens themselves through social networks. Social networks, once again, as a catalyst for change. Roundtable tanks, 15 groups and 150 members in more than 50 sessions were used for this, in which civil servants, other administrations, and trade unions participated. Furthermore, we are open to citizenship participation through the creation of a blog, the use of social networks, Facebook, Twitter, and other networks such as LinkedIn, YouTube, or SlideShare. Other initiatives to reduce the administrative burden will enable us to eliminate the bureaucratic barriers facing companies when they try to contact the administration. In this sense, the Basque government has the aim of reducing the administrative burden by 30% in the next 3 years. Deployment of e-administration involves evolving from an administration based on paper to one based on technology, a shift which requires radical internal changes. On the other hand, it not only enables the updating of communication channels with our citizens, but also implies significant savings and improvements in the distribution of internal workloads. In addition, it results in the speeding of administrative tasks and generates savings for citizens by avoiding the use of paper and displacements to visit offices. All the above will be accompanied by simplifying administrative procedures. Rationalization of administrative tasks is a fundamental challenge that should go hand in hand with the development of the current services, converting them to simple and quality services. When carrying out the simplifying process, it's very important to take into account the needs of our citizens and our companies, and not, as happens on so many occasions, to be thinking about what is easiest for the administration. A much clearer offer of public services, describe it in clearer terms, rationalizing public intervention, and making use of the possibilities provided by technology. The idea is not only to automate tasks, but also to allow collaboration with other administrations or bodies. We are promoting the assessment of public policies as a tool, which at the same time enables efficiency, improvements, and utilization of resources, improves the transparency of an organization, and is a symptom of commitment and coherence. Inter-administrative collaboration and interoperability are also a priority for this government, and even more so, in such a complicated scenario as the Basque one, with institutions that often overlap. The exchange of information with other administrations will enable time saving and reduce the periods for processing, increasing efficiency and quality of the service. The law regarding access for citizens to e-administration has already established this, but it's still not a complete reality, and it has not yet reached all institutional levels. Citizens should not have to present any document to certify information that is already in the hands of any administration. We have set ourselves the objective of reducing the need to present certificates by 60%. We have to put an end to that situation where the administration asks its citizens for papers they already have. A good example of our inter-administrative collaboration is the Basque government route map of payments, used by nearly 150 administrations and representing a cost reduction for all of them. Through all this administration, 137,000 payments were made last year for a total amount of 28 million euros. A lack of transparency in administration is no longer an option in a permanently interconnected world with information overload. If public administration do not reveal and explain what they are doing, others will do that for them. Our citizens want to know what we spend their taxes on and how that expense affects the welfare of the society. Therefore, it's necessary to implement initiatives that enable simple and understandable access to the information on government activity. Transparency is centered on returning part of that power to society. Why? To allow public scrutiny and to direct administration toward a more responsible, coherent, and resultant model. Transparency favors democratic strengthening of society and should be exercised with responsibility. However, for this model of joint responsibility to work, it's also necessary to promote citizen participation in public matters so that they become active agents for the progress of our society. The Basque executive understands that the most democratic, sustainable, and efficient formula for serving society in our era is that of open government. So we have implemented across-the-board policies to ensure openness and transparency. Policies that are not just a mere communication strategy or channel for dealing with our citizens. This is a way of understanding public activity so that it can influence the way we do politics. It affects governance of the country and the entire range of public policies. Irekia was set up to answer the need of the Basque society for more transparency, participation, and collaboration in the Basque government. This is a pioneer project for administration. Right from the outset, it has been clear that this will be the tool to democratically strengthen our society, using radical transparency and seeking social co-responsibility. Irekia is a website which establishes a direct communication channel between citizens and the administration. Since its setup in January 2010, Irekia has attracted 384,000 users that have entered the Open Government website. That represents the 35% of the total number of internet users in Euskadi. These people have shown interest in the daily activity of the Basque public administration, and it's not just a passing curiosity that has motivated this visit, as each of the users have employed at least 3 minutes on average to review the content, sufficient time to become aware of the daily news published on the website. The 3 principles of open government are clearly emphasized in Irekia. Transparency. The executive makes information and data available to citizens regarding its activity, actions, decisions, plans, and intentions in real time. Participation. Irekia offers a space for participation in which the different Basque government departments and other public entities reveal their projects to the public or launch participation campaigns. Similarly, it offers a space For reciprocal action, citizens can launch their challenges and demands in the public arena, join together with others and obtain an answer from the people directly responsible in the Basque government. More and more citizens are participating, either with their comments or even publishing their own proposals for improving Euskadi. Up to now, nearly 90 have been received. Some of these suggestions have been published in Open Idoia, the InnoBasque social network. Initiatives such as promoting gender equality, promoting active aging, or a discussion about neighborhood school in Euskadi, challenges that have provoked interesting debates. Collaboration, Irekia provides society with the tools and the collaborative work methods. Recently, its source code has been released for the creation of free Basque government software, and among its immediate challenges is the creation of a transparency page to facilitate access to those government processes that are difficult to find within the portal. Irekia also promotes and uses the most popular social networks to both encourage dialogue as well as to put into practice active listening of what is being said on the net. It acts as an aggregator of the varied contributors to social networks. We also use social networks in our policy of participation and transparency. These social internet structures allow us to be connected, to share interest and knowledge, and therefore facilitate both collaborative work and participation in society in specific areas of public interest. Public administration is traditionally an inflexible, hierarchical organization where the union of synergies can become very complicated. The use of social networks, for example, by training groups, innovation teams, and professional networks are a priority for our administration and enables us to further the transformation of the administration and to improve and to be innovative with regard to public services and internal management. Another of the key initiatives promoted by our executive in the line of advancing toward open government is Open Data Euskadi. Open Data Euskadi was set up in April 2010 as the first portal of open data in Spain, the first in the Spanish language and the first non-British one in Europe, with these objectives: to generate public value and economic wealth through the reuse of public data by infomedia services and other agencies. Well, I ran out of time, I thought.
Is this working? Can you hear me? Yep. So, we don't have much time for questions, but I have a couple of them prepared here to discuss with the panelists, which I believe would be interesting for all of you. One is about... So, as I said before, we've been involved at my institute in many open data projects so far, and we have found a lot of problems, organizational, technical, procedural, lots and lots of them. It's not as easy as, in the case of Tim, meeting with the Prime Minister and saying yes, as he said yesterday. Usually there are a lot of barriers. And I'm wondering, in your case, guys, what are the most important barriers you have found so far? What are the experiences that you can tell us you are using, or best practices you're using to overcoming them? So, no barriers for you?
To overcome the pushback against open data, we thought about making a book with listing 100 top excuses, because there are all kinds of different excuses that people come back against. So I think one of the things that people working with open data can do is to discuss amongst each other and compare notes, because some of these excuses are classic, and they have a classic example. One is, well, we don't have the budget to do that. You want us to put this data on the web. We've gone to a consultant, and they say that it'll cost us $100,000 minimum per year, and they want to sell us, and we'll have to upgrade our computer system. Nonsense. It's cheaper to put something on the web than it is to keep something in private. If you keep it private, you have to have security. When you put it on the web, so what you have to get people to do is to keep their existing workflow and point out that it won't. That making just at a certain point when they have a CSV file in the process, they just put it in outside the firewall. And they make a script to do it very cheaply. So helping them see the cheap ways of doing, the easy ways of doing things. There's so many reasons that people have, and there are for each of those reasons, there's ways of showing actually they don't make. There's ways of taking them apart. There are counter arguments, but there's so many arguments that it would be difficult to make a list here.
Okay. Good.
I think that a large reason why people don't do it is just uncertainty. They don't know how their data is going to be used. They don't know if it's safe for the company to share that data. They don't know if it's going to be used against their company. And in the case of government data, we're not sure if there's a national security risk sometimes. So I think the best thing we've done is we had, 24 brave individuals across the government initially helping out with data.gov that said, well, this is the data we can share, we know. And their success and the use of that data and how that transformed businesses and individuals and how people did visualizations, I think that's the best way that we sold it back to the rest of the people across the government. And we grew from some small number of data sets to a lot because we showed that success over and over again. And so, I mean, Tim's right. It's much cheaper to do it the right way. But I think people are entrenched in a certain way, especially within the government, and they're afraid, and sometimes rightfully so, of breaking a process and doing something completely different.
Bueno, nosotros en el Gobierno vasco, como he explicado antes, teníamos el reto de la transparencia y estábamos convencidos, y por eso creemos que es muy importante el liderazgo político, ¿no? El liderazgo político de los gobiernos y el compromiso con la transparencia y el Open Data y el Open Government. En nuestro caso, tanto el Lehendakari como yo, que soy la responsable de tecnologías, estábamos comprometidos y ha sido fácil hacerlo, pero también, como decía Jeanne, hemos perdido el miedo y nos gusta decir a mi equipo y a mí que estamos en una fase permanentemente de beta. No tenemos miedo a equivocarnos porque estamos en continua transformación y se puede decir que para ser el primer portal de Open Data en español, en una lengua no anglosajona, ha sido un éxito. Tenemos 1.350 bloques de datos. Ayer mismo colgamos en Open Data los datos electorales porque creemos que pueden ser de mucho uso en estos tiempos que estamos en campaña electoral y vamos a afrontar unas elecciones el próximo domingo. Por lo tanto, nuestro objetivo es facilitar al máximo, devolver a la ciudadanía algo que nosotros hemos hecho con su dinero y, sobre todo, también facilitar el gran reto que tenemos que abordar los gobiernos y, sobre todo, en un país como el nuestro, el País Vasco, donde tenemos muchas instituciones que todas tienen competencias sobre los ciudadanos, que es la interoperabilidad. Y con el Open Data, de hecho, se abre una puerta inmensa a la colaboración interadministrativa que, al final, nosotros nos debemos a los ciudadanos. Tenemos que trabajar para facilitarles la vida y estamos convencidos de que este es el camino adecuado.
So let's switch to another more technical question if you want. So Tim was talking about the 5-star scheme. Well, he knows that I'm a believer, but it's getting more difficult over time, especially in the projects we are deploying, that to convince people to go more to the 5-star than to stop just at the 3-star. People are more or less happy stopping at 3-star. They are releasing lots and lots of data about that. So what do you think that are the most important incentives to go from 3 to 5-star data?
I think that producing really nice tools for exploring 5-star data. So a lot of so if you're a company or a university, go for it, look at the 5-star data which is out there now, and imagine that you've got a tool which is going to you're going to be presented with some data in a domain that you don't know anything about, and you write the program which will allow you to really explore it very well. So I think more powerful user interfaces for the data will allow, then they will shorten the loop of satisfaction. If you can give people instant gratification, they put data out there and then they point some tools at it and quickly, immediately, then they've got they can then immediately, for example, compare it with data from another country. Or they can immediately put it on a map, immediately put it on a time scale, and so on. Then I think that the things which you've got on the data.gov site, those sorts of visualizations, I'd like to see it so that somebody can point those at any 5-star data. And there are some things coming along, but I think we need more work on better user interfaces for sort of technical people to use spreadsheets at the moment. I want something to be able to use 5-star data. I think that'll make it more appealing.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
What I've seen traditionally is that somebody creates a data set within an agency for some internal reason. And even if they're ready to share it and make it accessible through data.gov or some other kind of capability, they don't really see the need to connect to other data that's either from another part of their agency or from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And the change that I've seen that's most motivates people to do that, to move from 3 to 5, is requests from the public. So when somebody emails, tweets, somehow through social media gets to us information that they need to see health data related to veterans benefits for our soldiers, that then compels those two organizations to work together and has those data stewards starting to look at how they can get to that 5-star access. Because otherwise, they just think they're just supposed to share the data set and not really do anything with it other than publish it.
So we don't have much time, but probably one last question for you, Idoia, which is beyond open data and about more open government, Irekia, for example. We've been talking, and you've been talking about, how social media is changing the way that the relationship between government and citizens are now. Do you really feel that that is now a two-way street? Are people really participating, sending information or opinions to the government, trying to push the government to do the right thing, etc.? Or do you feel that this is still not the case and people are taking this not seriously yet?
Bueno, llevamos muy poco tiempo. Llevamos 2 años en el Gobierno y con la iniciativa Open Data llevamos 1 año escaso y con Irekia un poco más. Es un aprendizaje permanente, pero estamos convencidos de que el número de usuarios, y es así, va incrementando día a día. Y hay que decir que a veces los políticos de lo que hablamos pues no interesa a los ciudadanos, a los internautas que visitan Irekia. Sí, realmente hay unos debates muy importantes en torno a los que son los problemas quizá que más preocupan a la gente, como pueden ser la vivienda, el empleo. Cuando algún departamento cuelga en Irekia iniciativas y quiere generar un debate para recibir por parte de la ciudadanía, pues realmente es un debate muy enriquecedor y estamos convencidos de que esto es una cuestión más lenta, ¿no? Es poner la herramienta en manos de los ciudadanos y esperemos, y estamos convencidos, porque así vamos viendo la tendencia en estos últimos 2 años, de que va incrementándose el número de usuarios y el número de participantes. Es el futuro y los políticos, desde luego, nunca más vamos a poder hacer política como la veníamos haciendo tradicionalmente en Europa y en España en particular, que es cada 4 años votas y te olvidas, ¿no? Estamos en permanente contacto con la ciudadanía, no solo a través de las herramientas tecnológicas, sino también en un contacto más diario y más cara a cara con el ciudadano.
Great. So, I see that we run out of time. Thanks everybody for coming. Please give a round of applause to the panelists.